But then there's this idea of, like Abraham was someone who was not commanded, but did. He did Torah, but he wasn't commanded to do it. And so when you're not commanded to do it, then the only reason you can be doing it is for the sake of heaven, because there's no reason for you to do it outside of that, unless you come into the idea that I'm going to do it for some kind of gain. I'm going to study Torah
as a reward.
Even as a reward, but people are going to come give me money because I'm going to teach them Torah, and they're going to give me money, and I'm going to learn all this, and I'm going to tickle their ears with all these things that I learn, and I'm going to do it for myself. And, Rabbi Ashlag says in that context that the Torah actually becomes a poisonous elixir to those people who are doing Torah for self-serving reasons. Even the idea is, I'm going to get closer to God. I'm going to, do this and do that because I'm doing all this extra stuff that I'm not commanded to do. So when you have to be careful that if you're doing something in Torah that is extra, something that you're not, and when I say extra, let's say that you're doing something that you're not commanded to do, then be sure that you're doing it for the sake of heaven, for no particular reason, for no gain, for no benefit for yourself. And
that makes perfect sense, especially when you look at people that say, I only study Kabbalah or the Kabbalistic text. Well, Kabbalah in itself, if I may have this wrong, and you can correct me if I am, but Kabbalah, if you broke it down to what it means, it's to receive, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're just doing Kabbalah and then you're just receiving, then you're just operating at the will to receive.
If you're receiving it for yourself alone, but if you're,
I'm saying that's what I'm doing. If you're just studying it for your own intellect, just like you were saying, just to be able to talk about these very soul level things and to say, hey, look what I've learned or I know, then you're just operating at that level, the will to receive.
Yeah. And you benefit, you benefit yourself from what you're doing. Yourself benefits from it. Instead of being able to study something that you're not commanded, or you're not necessarily commanded to study and to learn, but you do it for the sake of heaven, and then you have an opportunity to help someone that would benefit from that knowledge. Then you became not only of the receiver, but now you became a giver. You've gained you have an affinity now with God, because now you have received in order to give. And now you have that affinity with God. And I run across that this week, talking with someone and having a discussion with them. And it was a business discussion, and they were talking to me, and he goes, look, man, I'm not at the top of it. His daughter had just passed away in an accident. And he was obviously upset about it and trying to get his life back together and pull everything back together. And I said, well, look, I'm gonna tell you this story, and this is how I understand it from the Jewish mystical writings. And I told him a story, and I said, I hope that helped you. And he said, you wouldn't believe how much that helps me. He said, that makes so much sense, and it helped me a whole lot. And that is the idea. This is someone who would have never seeked out the wisdom of a sage or a rabbi or a Jewish person, or have any of these knowledge of any of these stories. And he was obviously hurting and looking for answers. And people in that situation, to where they lose a child early in life. And so we were, having this conversation just by accident. And I was able to say, hey, look, this is what I learned, and this is how I understand it. And I was able to share that with him for nothing more than the sake of heaven. But he was benefited from it and never would have had that opportunity. And he goes, and he said, I get it. He said, you don't realize, how much I get it and how much that helps. And he said, and he told me, I've never heard anything like that before.
So you gave him comfort through something you've learned through the Torah or the Kabbalistic
through the
text.
Kabbalah. Yeah, through Kabbalistic
so what you've
of
done
Scripture
is you've taken the will to receive and turned it into the will to give, and that's the ultimate goal.
And I did that in a world that is totally void of the wisdom of the sages. That comfort would not have existed. That these sages have provided to the world, but it's isolated to within the Jewish understanding of things. And there I was able to freely give this to this person because I seen the need. And the reason I was able to give it is because I received it for the sake of heaven.